So we know that in spirituality, man is represented by the sun and woman the moon, right? And so, alchemy is the union of the sun and the moon. This takes place in man where the heart and mind are joined in eternal union. It occurs when the positive and negative poles within are united. From that union is made the Philosopher's Stone. The great work. Okay, Margaret Fuller said, although the masculine and feminine have been the two sides of a great radical dualism, in reality, they are always intermingling. This liquid solidifies and the solid melts. There is no man entirely male or woman entirely female. So let's talk about what some religious things are said about androgyny. So the Prophet Muhammad's last sermon in Israel said, though not explicitly androgynous, Muhammad's last sermon emphasizes the equal spiritual worth of men and women, a revolutionary idea in 7th century Arabia. This equality can be seen as an invitation to integrate spirituality's masculine and feminine aspects. While mainstream Christian theology doesn't generally focus on androgyny, some mystical Christian traditions and Gnostic texts suggest spiritual androgyny. For example, in the Gospel of Thomas, which we know is taken out of the Bible, contains a saying where Jesus speaks about making the male and female into a single one, often interpreted as to a call of inner wholeness. It says saying 22 in the Gospel talks of Jesus seeing infants being suckled. He tells his disciples that the infants are those who enter the kingdom. Jesus goes on, for example, and says, when you make the two into one, and when you make the inner as the outer, and the upper as the lower, and when you make the male and female into a single one, so that the male shall not be male, and the female shall not be female, then you will enter the kingdom / Father's domain. Why? Because God is androgynous. Spirit is androgynous. It says, achieving spiritual ascent in Kabbalah's practice often involves balancing these elements within oneself, reflecting the divine balance within God. These gender differences are not necessarily fixed to a particular sephirot, but rather are relative to the discussion at the time. These gender differences can be seen more clearly in the stories found in Jewish mystical texts such as the Zohar, in modern times, Hasidic thoughts. Okay, for example, the most part, the right. I think I might have read this. In Native American culture, it says, in some Native American cultures, the two-spirit individuals are seen as embodied in both masculine and feminine spirits. Stories and myths about two-spirit people often emphasize their special roles as mediators, healers, and special leaders. The principle of knowing yourself from a sexually androgynous sense in these traditions often symbolize transcendental unity and